Let's talk about Trump's 20-point Gaza plan United Nations resolution. Stick with me as there are multiple levels to this development. In one sentence, it is another horrible United Nations resolution that rewards terror by even entertaining the creation of a Palestinian state, a total moral outrage. The latest United Nations Security Council resolution on Trump's 20-point Gaza plan is yet another tragic example of the world rewarding terror, evil. The very notion that a genocidal death cult could massacre Jews on October 7th on Simchat Torah, and the solution would be to even discuss creating a Palestinian state is a moral collapse of historic proportions. Instead of punishing evil, the world once again incentivizes it. Instead of holding the perpetrators accountable, it hands them political currency. The mere idea of Palestinian statehood as a response to the horrors of Gaza sends a crystal clear message to every jihadist on earth. Murder Jews, and the world will debate giving you a country. Regardless if they fulfill the conditions or not, the idea of a potential Palestinian state stays alive, and our jihadi Muslim enemies have all the patience in the world to wait for that right time, even if now is not that right time. They'll wait out Trump. They'll wait for other things to happen in the world. Our holy IDF soldiers did not fight in Gaza, did not sacrifice their lives, and did not return home with devastating wounds in body and spirit, only for our enemy to be rewarded, even conceptually, with the creation of a state. That is a terrible stab in our holy IDF soldiers' backs. After saying that, once we take a closer look at the actual text of the plan and the resolution, the realpolitik of this United Nations resolution, it becomes obvious that the entire framework is a diplomatic illusion, still dangerous and immoral, but an illusion. Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, now given international support with the United Nations resolution, establishes a long list of conditions for any hypothetical Palestinian state. Hamas must be disarmed. Gaza must be demilitarized. A new governing body must replace Hamas entirely in Gaza. International monitors must verify permanent demilitarization. And the Palestinian Authority must reform itself into a functional, peaceful entity. And until that time, can have nothing to do with Gaza. So here's the blunt truth. Hamas will never disarm. The Palestinian Authority will never reform. The Arab Muslim public in Gaza, Judea, and Samaria will never abandon its support for its 1,400 plus year Muslim jihadi ideology. Never. Every survey shows overwhelming support from Arab Muslims in Gaza, Judea, and Samaria for the atrocities of October 7th. So who exactly is supposed to fulfill these conditions to allow for the creation of a state called Palestine in the Jewish ancestral homeland? Yeah, it's supposed to be right here. A society that glorifies terrorism, they're supposed to be in charge. A terror group tied to Iran and Qatar. A corrupt Palestinian Authority that pays salaries to murderers and educates the children in textbooks and in television programming to murder Jews. It's all a diplomatic fantasy, a political placebo. This two-state solution is a way for world leaders to pretend that they are solving something while ignoring the ideology driving the conflict. Our jihadi Muslim enemy will never meet the requirements for statehood because the requirements demand abandoning the very identity their jihadi Muslim society has been built on for generations. My friend, Professor Eugene Kantorovich, goes further and explains that the new Security Council resolution actually destroys the core claims the world has been using against Israel for years. He says that the resolution makes explicit that a Palestinian state does not exist, which should be the death knell for the International Criminal Court's political lawfare against Israel, and a deep embarrassment to every government, including France and Britain, and academic who pretended otherwise, because it was Paris and London who said to the entire international law establishment that they recognized Palestine as a state. Well, that's now been neutered. The resolution also makes clear that there is no legal or practical obligation whatsoever to create a Palestinian state. Even more importantly, the resolution states plainly that Gaza threatens the security of neighboring states, meaning Gaza threatens Israel, not the other way around. So goodbye to the whole blood libelous genocide narrative, and goodbye to the United Nations' old role of dictating terms to Israel. Because when it comes to the rebuilding of Gaza, the United Nations has now been pushed to the sidelines and replaced by Trump's Gaza peace team. That's also been approved upon in this resolution. So yes, the idea of a Palestinian state is placed on the table, but only as a hollow gesture that everyone knows will never materialize. And this time, the international community, including Russia, China, and the Arab Muslim world, is openly giving Israel the green light to finish the job in Gaza the moment international forces inevitably fail to disarm Hamas and demilitarize Gaza. Israel is authorized to step in and do it ourselves. And we all know no one else is going to do it, right? Let's be honest. Of course, the international community will fail. And I'm sure President Trump has every intention of them succeeding in disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza. But no foreign army, not the Europeans, not the Arab armies, not the UN, not even the US military, is going to risk its soldiers' lives going tunnel to tunnel in Gaza against Hamas to disarm them and demilitarize them. And we don't want anyone else to do it. Well, we want to do it. We know how to do it. We don't want anyone risking their soldiers' lives. Only the IDF is willing to do what must be done. But even with all of this positive real-politic in analyzing Trump's 20-point plan now approved by the UN Security Council, we cannot ignore the elephant in the room. The biggest unanswered question is what happens about the part of rebuilding Gaza after the IDF eventually disarms Hamas and fully demilitarizes Gaza. That's the big question. After October 7th, Israelis will never allow any of Gaza, whether the part already under Israeli control or not, to be rebuilt for the same Gazan jihadi population that openly supported and celebrated the October 7th massacre, as we all know that they would simply prepare for the next massacre against us. This is the core concern troubling Israelis about Trump's 20-point plan, now adopted as a UN resolution. The world wants to rebuild Gaza for the Gazans, for the jihadi Gazans, while Israelis refuse to rebuild the launching pad for the next October 7th invasion and massacre from Gaza. After what we lived through, Israelis want to look out toward the Mediterranean Sea and see an open horizon or Jewish homes in Gaza, not seeing rebuilt Gazan homes for the jihadi Muslim enemy population in Gaza that would once again bring the fear and the reality of another October 7th to all the Jews who live near Gaza. The fuller picture behind all this diplomacy is simple. Trump and Netanyahu are working together to build a new economic supply chain linking the United States to India through the Middle East, through Israel, through Saudi Arabia, etc. To make that happen, Trump needs Saudi Arabia and other Arab states on board with the plan, which means throwing them diplomatic gestures they can sell at home. But if this grand strategy of Trump, which Netanyahu is on board with, ignores the core truth of jihadi Muslim Middle East and demands that Israel pay the price by sacrificing our sovereignty over our ancestral lands or endangering our lives, then the entire plan will collapse. No regional vision can succeed if it is built on illusions about the nature of our enemies or on the backs of 10 million Israelis who refuse to be the cost of doing business with President Trump and his transactional doings. If the world were morally sane, it would state clearly, no Palestinian state will emerge from the ashes of the genocidal attack of Hamas on October 7th, supported by Iran and Qatar and the whole jihadi Muslim world. Israel has every right and every obligation to liberate and remain in all of Gaza after demilitarizing it in order to protect the state of Israel and all of its citizens. There can be no role in Gaza for Qatar, for Turkey, or Egypt, and obviously not Iran, all of whom enable, fund, or promote the same jihadi Muslim ideology that fuels Hamas, who are basically just the stormtroopers. Allowing any of these regimes to shape Gaza's future would simply guarantee the next generation of terror against all of us, not just us Jews in Israel. But since the world, including the Trump administration, refuses to speak truth, Israel must. The Jewish people must. The only way to end the Gaza nightmare is through a Jewish vision rooted in reality. Hamas must be eliminated completely. All of Gaza must be permanently demilitarized under Israeli control forever. Trump's Gaza immigration plan must be implemented because a society that overwhelmingly supports genocide cannot live near us or remain living in the place where they launched an invasion and massacre against us. Israel must assert first full Jewish sovereignty and security responsibility from the river to the sea, with Jewish rebuilding everywhere, including in Gaza. Appeasement will not bring peace. It never will bring peace. A Palestinian state will not bring peace. International monitors will not bring peace. Leaving a jihadi Muslim population in the very place in Gaza from which they attacked us and massacred us will never bring peace. Only Jewish strength, Jewish sovereignty, Jewish resettlement, and Jewish moral clarity can secure a future for 10 million Israelis and every minority in our midst who are also threatened by the jihadi Muslim enemy. This is the vision the world fears to articulate. But we, the Jewish people, we must be the ones saying this out loud, because the days of surviving are over. Now is the time for the Jewish people to lead. And above all, remember this: God laughs at the plans of man. The Jewish people, we have returned as sovereign in our eternal ancestral homeland. And no diplomatic maneuvers of man or global pressures of world leaders can overturn God's promise. Strengthen your faith in God. Stand tall. Great times are coming for the Jewish people, greater than anything we've ever seen in generations, even though we still have turbulent times ahead. Strengthen your faith. Stand with the Jewish people. Stand with the Jewish state of Israel. Am Yisrael Chai. If you are not yet a subscriber to our daily, belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect, truthful videos about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world, what are you waiting for? Go to pulsevisual.com and click to subscribe today. And yes, we are a donor-based operation. We need your donations for support in order to make these videos and get our videos seen and do all the work we do. So every once in a while, whether a large donation or a small donation, just go to pulsevisual.com and click on the donate button. Shalom, everyone, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.